This is the Counterfeit Ackley project. The CIA is here. Opening bank in file 1. Unsinkable ledger. Bought our ships and streets. And ships, kids, and credit lines all move the same way. You call it a pattern.
Trusting liners braided tight across the North Atlantic span. Ticket 40 on a first class suite already planned. Any bills before the voyage while the lifeboat stay a sham. Master on the manifest, Guggenheim and Straus on board. Heavyweights of oil cash, industrial Isidor. Next year central banking bills keep flooding through the doors. While the men who might have fought it lying silt on ocean floors. Back big money on the line, skip the maiden run. Fact, 3 great fortunes vanished under Atlantic sun. Fact, few years later, one reserve but rulers one. Call it fate if you feel safe. I just know what's said and done. They say some titans weren't sold on one cabal to hold the key. Weren't keen to pledge their empires to a single currency. I don't claim a signed confession, just a casualty to spree. Who survived, who spoke for Central, what got passed in D.C. If you want a board that never hears a single no again, you don't debate each dissident, you just don't let them attend. Build an ever-sinking palace for the world's most wired men. Let the iceberg take the vote and call it nature, not intent. Unsinkable ledgers, watch the bodies go down. They say the ship was blessed, they say the bank wore a crown. But every time the rich get hit, the story spun around. Accidents and long wars while the money leaves town. Unsinkable ledgers from the ocean to the streets. When the paper trail gets wet, the charges come out neat. Bodies in the water, missing kids beneath the sheets. And the same few hands keep landing on their feet. Cutscene, Midwest, little credit union sign. Franklin serving neighborhood, small accounts, small lines. Till the feds crack open ledgers and the numbers don't align. Find a second hidden book and 30 million gone in time. Manager in tailored suits, singing gospel to the poor. Behind the choir roll, pipelines running out the door. Then the whisper started parties, flights, and something more. Kids in limos, power brokers, things the papers won't explore. Some testimony collapses, some gets twisted, some recants. But the stain of that corruption never really leaves the branch. Headlines say embezzlement, shrink it to a simple stance. While the darker allegations get dismissed as wild rants. Out in Iowa, a boy goes missing on his paper run. Name becomes a haunting echo every time this topic spun. Later books and witnesses try to tie the trails as one. Map the money and the children to the same few chosen sons. I'm not here to swear which detail every courtroom should believe. I'm here to note how often when there's kids and cash and thieves, the financial institution gets a slap upon the sleeve. And the trafficking dimension gets filed under make-believe. Keep landing on their feet.
This is the Counterfeit Ackley project.
closing bank in file one. Part our ships and streets. When the same hands hold the wheel, and the vault, you don't ignore the wake.
Unsinkable legends.
This is the Counterfeit Ackley project. The CIA is here. Opening bank in file 1, part 2. Unsinkable ledgers. Islands and towers. Same pattern, new century.
Unsinkable legends. Watch the bodies go down. They say it's you a monster. They don't mention who's around. When the climb moves in shadows, but the bang will shut them down. You don't blame it on the ocean. You go looking for the crown. Unsinkable legends. From the islands to the towers. Private jets and private banks and carefully arranged powers. When the warnings hit the system, but they started for the dollars. You start hearing all these case files rhyme inside your head like why? Quiet, half jet, silence and gated doors. Predator with contact lists that reach through every floor. Private bank accounts and towers move his money evermore. Warnings in the system, but the profits hard to ignore. Flags and internal memos, iris cash that looks insane. Mass withdrawals, wire favors, same few circles in the frame. Yet the clients stay exception, worth the headache, worth the shame. Till survivors bring the lawsuits and the emails name the game. Settlements get written, no omission, just regret. Should've caught them sooner, but they wrote that money bad. Turn the traffic and supply chain into oversight we met. While the ledgers in the flight lock show who never felt the net. They call it just a bad relationship, but one man gone astray. But a billion moved through corridors and never lost their way. If the codes in KYC were meant to keep the wolves at bay, why is it always rich as predators? The system lets it sway. Unsinkable legends. Watch the bodies go down. They say it's just one monster. They don't mention who's around. When the client moves in shadows, but the man will shut him down. You don't blame it on the ocean. You go looking for the crown. Unsinkable legends. From the islands to the towers. Private jets and private banks and carefully arranged powers. When the warnings hit the system, but they stall it for the dollars. You start hearing all these case files rhyme inside your head like why? Somewhere in the red with shadows, bonfires paint the night. Politicians, bankers, spooks, all toasting out of sight. Call it camping, call it culture, call it private men's delight. But the guest list reads like every case file welded tight. Old boy swap the golf balls, grim for cloaks and forest hymns. Business low intelligence, all clinking in the rims. They don't need a secret contract, just a culture thick as sin. Where we protect our own comes first, no matter what's within. I'm not saying mass and statues draft the memos we can't see. I'm saying when you chart the faces, it's the same old company. From the ships to credit unions, island runway, secret trees. The proximity of money, state and flesh is hard to call randomly. So when the banker said we're shocked that one abuser slipped the net, I just flipped through all these ledgers and the names I can't forget. Cause the monsters need a sponsor, need a network, need a set. And the pattern keeps on pointing to the places powers met. Unsinkable legends. Watch the bodies go down. They say it's just one monster. They don't mention who's around. When the climb moves in shadow, but the bang will shut them down. You don't blame it on the ocean. You go looking for the ground. Unsinkable legends. From the islands to the towers. Private jets and private banks and carefully arranged powers. When the warnings hit the system, but they stall it for the dollars. You start hearing all these case files rhyme inside your head like why? I keep these case files in one folder for a reason. Titanic, Franklin, missing boys, predator islands, and private camps. That's not separate noise, that's a rhythm. Every time there's too much money and too many secrets in one room, ships go down, kids go missing, ledgers blur, and the story gets clean for TV. They call it coincidence, rumor unproven. But when the script repeats, bankers close to bodies, spies close to bankers, the same names in the background. Theory starts to feel less like theory and more like a blueprint. They don't bother rewriting. This is the Counterfeit Ian Ackley project. CIA closing bank in file 1. Part 2. Unsinkable ledgers. Islands and towers.